Well, it's a story you've heard a lot before the break, and it's going to continue, it would seem, at least in Avalanche losses. Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche postgame show presented by Bet365. Ian Rudo coming at you live as the Avs lose 2-1 to the Nashville Predators. And this is going to be a weird game to talk about because on one hand, I don't have a lot of problems with the way the Avs played in this game. They dominated large stretches of this game. They really didn't even make that many mistakes. They just couldn't score. They score one goal from a defenseman, and that's it. Your forwards produced 0 goals. I mean, I guess they had assists on the goal, but 0 goals scored by Avs forwards in this game. It's a conversation that we're going to dive into, look at some angles, as we've done many times before this season, but I'm going to try to bring you a couple different angles. Let's start with big picture first, E. A 2-1 loss like this, obviously it's crunch time. Every point counts, but can you at least feel pretty good about the way the Avs played besides the finishing?
Yeah, I do believe if they keep playing that way, they're going to be fine here these next couple weeks. But with that said, when there's 24 games left, we talk about there's no moral victories anymore. You know what I mean? And there's no more excuses, and there's no more, something. Now, big picture, yeah, they're 4-2 last 6. All right. I mean, I'll buy it. You know what I mean? Like, did 1-2 in a row. Obviously, tonight would have been nice to make it 3 in a row. Didn't happen. But I think what we'll talk about here these next hour on this podcast is too many times it's always the same movie, you know what I mean, when the Avs lose, right? It's just the same broken record, you know what I mean? It's the same way that they lose. Yep. And that's what we're going to dissect, and that's what I'm going to, complain about, because there's not a lot to complain about. He gave up 17 shots. You know what I mean? Like, so that's not that many scoring chances. You can't blame the goaltending. You can't blame the defense. It's not like, again, that they gave up scoring chance after scoring chance after scoring chance. One of the problems is they're not scoring. You know what I mean? And that's kind of annoying. I'm not going to lie to you, because now we'll come up with some numbers like we talked about, you and I, right before the show, and for me that's bothersome a little bit. I understand there was a big break in there, and you add the big break in there. Some guys have gone like almost 2 months without a point. With the break, obviously. But I'm just that's not normal. I'm sorry. Yeah. If you play 5 minutes a night, I get it. But if you play 10, 12, 14 minutes a night, that's not normal. And not in my book. Never been, never will be.
Mm-hmm. It's not normal. And like, yes, it's a problem. It's also unsustainable at the levels that it's currently happening to some Avs players. Like, realistically, it can't continue like this forever. There is certain levels of things where the Avs players aren't that bad. They're not that bad at finishing compared to the way things are happening, but they're also not getting it done. At the end of the night, they're not getting it done. And I do want to save that conversation for a little bit later. We can run through the game first here. First period, early parts, it felt a little bit rusty. It felt like teams coming off of the break. But then the Avs did a good job of controlling it. Again, they just did not finish in the first period. You get into the second period, you finally do finish. You get a nice play. You get a goal out of your second line in your defense, and you give it away. 45 seconds later, the puck is in the back of your net, or a minute later, whatever it was. Things happen, sure, but if we're talking about recurring issues for the Avalanche, lack of finishing is definitely one of them, and giving goals back has happened far too often this year, where the Avs they can't seem to stop that response shift from other teams.
It's one of my pet peeves, as you guys know. We talk about it, my no-nos, and that's probably my biggest one. Shift after a goal. It's the most important shift in a game. Tonight, that's the play of the game for me. If you're the Nashville Predators, yeah, lucky bounce makes it the 2-1 game, but the one that got away is that first goal. You just had momentum. You just scored. For me, it's my pet peeve. You know that. Besides shooting wide, uh, God, there's got to be a push because that's the rules in hockey, right? Shift after a goal is so important. Good, I mean, a goal against you or for you, it's just as important. You know what I mean? And what do? They push back. They push back, and then you can't sustain it, and then the puck's in your net. It's like, well, what are you doing? For me, that's where they lost the game. The second, then you leave it up to a freaking bad bounce. That all of a sudden nobody can defend anything, and give Marchessault credit because he caught it, like the way he'd bounce back and then he puts it in, you know what I mean? So it's hard to blame anyone. You can blame, I'm sure, like 20, 30 seconds before. We all know that, somewhere, somehow, but that's, they didn't lose the game there. For me, they lost it on that first goal, you know what I mean? Because it's like, what are you doing? And they controlled play. They were the better team. They had the most shots, the most scoring chances, you know. But it goes down to when your margin is so thin. If your top end guys aren't getting 4 or 5 points, you know what I mean? Because you're not getting much. You know what I mean? You're barely, you got one from the second line there. The Middlestat does a good play on the boards there. Doesn't get the assist there, but it's a good play. It's a playoff play. And then next thing you know, you just didn't get it from your power play. Not that you had a lot of power plays. The power play was fine when they were out there, right? As we know, we didn't mind it. It didn't convert. But it's the lack of production from the rest, and again, it's just the numbers are scary for some guys in the last 20 games, 30 games. It's pretty sporadic. It's pretty bad. At some point, you have to challenge yourself. And if you watch pregame, we talked about it, right? Like a little help, please, right? Key number 2,
Yep.
right? A little help. Like you got to help out a little bit, like and I think you got to feel it, and you gotta take a little bit more pride in production. For me, that's the way I look at it. That's the way I was when I was playing. Again, if you're playing 5 minutes a night, like I got no problem. Like let's not put the same conversation. But if you're playing 12, 13, 14 minutes a night, you got to produce more than some of those guys of the last 20, 30 games.
Yeah, there needs to be more production. Look. Let's take a look at it this way, and I'll run through some of the guys because I think there are two sides to this a little bit. I do want to have this conversation in two different ways, but let's take the last 10 games because it happens to work out that since January 22nd, the Avs have played exactly 10 games, including tonight. So the last 10 games, the last month of hockey, which includes the break, let's take a look at some of the Avs production. And I want to include the second line in this, but I want to get to them last. So let's start from the bottom here. We'll start with the bottom of the Avs lineup, which includes the fourth line of Kelly, O'Connor, and Yoel Kiviranta. Last 10 games for all four of those guys combined. I think Kelly has 2 points, correct? I think Logan has 1 or none. None. And I think Kiviranta has 1. So that's your fourth line tonight has given you 3 points in 10 games.
Combined.
You're not asking for them to score a lot, but 3 points in 10 games is virtually non-existent.
Not in my book.
There's just no production from your fourth line. And the sad thing is that's better than what your third line has given you in the last 10 games. In the last 10 games, Ross Colton, 0 points. Miles Wood only came back 9 games ago, so short 1 game. But in the 9 games since he's returned, 0 points. Jack Drury, since he joined the team, also only 9 games, 2 goals. The 3 players you had on your third line have produced 2 points combined since January 22nd. There is none. There is zero production from the Avs bottom six. There is just none.
That's my pet peeve. You know that I talked about it pregame. I said whatever you did on vacation there, reset like mentally, body. If you've been banged up, okay, nothing better than a 10-day off break. I mean, are you kidding me? That's a dream, for your body to heal, and which is unheard of during the regular season. And come back rejuvenated, come back, with some juice, with some pushback, with some vengeance. You got to get involved. You got to get involved. We saw Ross get involved at the end. There's just a little bit of a bump there. Like, remember, like 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game, and made England come back angry. Like, again, you guys know that. It's within the rules. I'm not asking anyone to be dirty and do something nasty, and you're going to get caught stupid because suspended. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking that show with play with a little passion, a little bit of emotion. And sometimes it requires you to bump into someone after the whistle and don't take a penalty, and maybe they slug you in the face, and then you get on the power play, and then McKinnon scores. I know you got to get involved. If you're not getting involved on the score sheet, there's other ways to get involved, but you can't sleep through the game. In my book, and that's where my pet peeve. Did the Avs play a bad game? No. We praised them after the first period. You were the first one to praise them. Love the effort. Love the game. Like this. They're working good. They're working hard. Like, all right, keep going. It's going to turn. But
you are a forward in the NHL. You have to score eventually. If you want to stay in the NHL and play forward, you have to score eventually. You can have all the good metrics. You can win all the battles. If you go over for 25 straight games, not good enough. I don't care if you're a fourth liner. I don't care if you're a first liner. Like, you have to produce at a level higher than that. Realistically, an NHL forward, unless you're like truly an elite shutdown forward on your fourth line, then maybe 10 to 15 points is okay. But realistically, to be an NHL forward, you should really be getting 20 points a year. Really.
Oh, I agree with you. I am. And that's where it bugs me. It's starting to bug me now. I'm starting to talk about it a little too much, to be honest with you, because it takes away from the Avs played a good game. Great, awesome. But you need more than that right now. This is, again, I talk about cut up oranges and juice boxes. This is not what this is. Like, you're way past it. You're trying to win the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
You want to win the Stanley Cup. It's tough. It's hard. There's a lot to do. And it's night in, it's night out. And I do believe the top end guys on this team have brought that. They've brought that attitude. They even brought it at Four Nations last week. It's the secondary guys to me. Like, I don't see it. You know what I mean? And I just, and you see it, then you think it's, oh, okay. But then it's like, oh, it disappears for a while. Like, it's every game. It's every game. You gotta go. And and it's not fun. And yeah, it's nice to see some goals and highlight and water bottles popping and but there's some dirty work that's not fun, like block shots and winning a big draw and going in the corner and getting beat up and cross check 7 times, but created a play or two chances off a cycle, and then it creates momentum. Then the top line goes and second line goes, what did they score? Great, awesome. Like, you gotta have a little bit of energy. You gotta have a little bit of a buzzsaw like type atmosphere out there. I just don't see it. I see something like, oh God, it's not going in for me, or it's not like, I'm like, what? You're not playing against Yossi. You're playing against England. And I'm not bashing England. I'm saying, like, God, I lived it. Like, I know what I'm talking about. Like, those guys play against the top end guys. You're playing against the stiffs of the other team. I'm sorry. That's just a bad.
Yeah. I agree. And I have some interesting numbers that I want to get into here, particularly when it comes to the Avs shooting. We are going to jump into that in just a minute, but we do have to pay some bills before we do that. So let's jump in with Live Well. You guys can live well today with 25 different locations in Colorado. Live Well is out here trying to provide cannabis for everyone because they just want you to live well. You can go in store and use code DNVR25 right now to get 25% off one regular priced item, whatever it is. They've got all sorts of great products, and their professional staff will help you find the right product for you. Jump in with Live Well today. If you want to, you can order online beforehand too to have your order ready for pickup. Makes your life super easy. You get in and out. It's awesome. And again, be sure to use that DNVR25 code when you do go into Live Well to get that 25% off. Topicals, flour, joints, vapes, you name it. They've got just about every product under the sun. So go check them out. Make sure you're living well today. And once you've got your Live Well order all sorted out, make sure you're also, hiding those eyes a little bit if you need to. Maybe your eyes are a little bloodshot. Who's to say? I don't know. Certainly Team Canada's were after that celebration the other day. So get your Shady Rays on. Get 35% off Shady Rays at shadyrays.com with code DNVR. Any pair of their polarized sunglasses, you get 35% off with the DNVR code. Hundreds of different choices. If you need other stuff too, they've got goggles for skiing and snowboarding. They have corrective sunglasses if you're a blind person like some of us here at DNVR. Whatever it is for your eyewear, Rays, shady needs, they've got you covered. Go check them out. Hundreds of different styles. Like I said, you can get different polarization colors, a bunch of awesome stuff. And the coolest part about Shady Rays is their 30-day return guarantee. If you don't like them, you lose them, or you break them in the first 30 days, they will replace them entirely for free. So get with Shady Rays today at shadyrays.com, and don't forget to use that DNVR code. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. And this is some really interesting stuff to me. Tonight, the Avs shot less than 3%. 1 goal on 32 shots on goal, right? Terrible shooting percentage.
Mm-hmm.
In losses, the Avs do not shoot well, but that does not mean that the Avs are a poor shooting team. The Avs, before tonight, doesn't include tonight's stats, but the Avs were a top 10 team at all situations in shooting. They were shooting 11% on the year. They're capable of shooting at a high clip, but for whatever reason, they can't seem to consistently play at an average level when it comes to their shooting. They're either spending nights where they're winning by a bunch, scoring 5-6 goals, shooting like 18, 20%, or they're losing on tonight's like tonight where they shoot 3%. They can't seem to find that happy medium. I can't, it's weird to me. Yes, not everything is average all the time, but the Avs have been so up and down that they can't seem to play an average game, at least when it comes to their shooting percentages. Can you explain it? I mean, I don't know.
I can't. I can. And those are great numbers you're showing. You know what I mean? And I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. I'm perturbed a little bit at the other numbers you brought earlier, which tie in with this number, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 0 points and 10. It ties in together, right?
I have more numbers there in a minute. So.
Yeah. No, I'll just what I'm saying is those two numbers tie in. They do.
Absolutely.
Is it you're not greasy enough? Somebody in chat said, well, they thought Bednar, he thought the team played well. Absolutely. We're the first ones that said they played well.
I thought they played great, except for scoring. The only thing they didn't do well was score.
Exactly. What we're saying is it's every loss is the same lately. That's what we've been talking about. Every loss is the same. It's a lack of production from the secondary guys. It's a lack of, whatever you want to call that, like hunger or hungriness or help, from the other guys. And that's what's kind of getting to be bothersome a little bit, because you play it you leave it up to a bad bounce for the 17th shot of the night. You know what I mean? Again, you played a good game. We're on the same page as Coach Bednar. We're not saying this was a bad game. And he's not going to come out and say what we're saying right now. Why would you do that? You can't do that publicly. You got to do that internally with your team and talk about it and challenge guys. And, not going to do that in the social media world or in a press conference. But what I'm trying to say is it ties in your numbers. For what reason? I don't know. I feel that it's not that hard. I'm not bashing the National Hockey League. I'm not bashing the players. But when you play, and you play against secondary guys, not Yossi's tonight or, the top end guys, Ryan O'Reilly, or you're playing against somebody else. Like, I'm sorry. You got to produce at some point. You know what I mean? Like, you have to. The puck has to hit your skate and go sideways and a guy puts it in, or I don't know. But you can't go 20, 30 games, 40 games with those types of numbers for some guys. It's alarming.
Yeah.
Again, not tonight's game. I'm not talking about tonight. We're not talking about tonight. They played good as a team. Don't want chat to think that we're crazy. You know what I mean? Like, they played good. They didn't finish.
Look,
you know,
I get it. You're a bottom 6 player for a reason, because you might be a little bit inconsistent at times. You don't score for 5 games. All right, that's not good, but it's not a problem. You don't score for 10 games. Now you're starting to get a problem. Ross Colton hasn't scored a point in 14 games. We're talking about 15% of the more than 15% of the season where Ross Colton has not recorded a single point in a row. Like, forget the other games he hasn't scored in. And this is I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit because I want to have a couple of conversations here, but yeah. And I'm not saying the second line has produced enough, but when you compare the sum production you're getting out of guys like Middlestat compared to Ross Colton, Middlestat makes more than Colton, but not that much more. Middlestat makes 5.75. Colton makes $4 million. And Middlestat has double Ross Colton's points. And you feel like Middlestat's production is a little bit disappointing. So Ross Colton's production is unbelievably underwhelming. It's weird to me how in the Avs fan base, it feels like this has flown under the radar because everyone is so honed in on how bad Middlestat has been. But there are the guys behind him that have arguably been worse offensively.
Oh yeah, you and me agree on this, as you know, and it does go under the radar a little bit. I'm not here to bash Ross either, you know.
No, it's not sustainable. It can't continue to be. Ross is a better player than what he's playing like right now, but it's bad.
Absolutely,
right now.
And he cares. I'm not here to bash him. I'm not here to peel his onion. You know what I mean? Like, he's, he is what he is. Like, he's a better player than what he's shown. He's shown that he can play with top end players at the start of the season. But right now, this is where you're at, and where you're at, once you've gained that confidence, you know what I mean? Like, you should be able to bring that line now to a better level, because you're not playing with Mac, and you're not playing with Miko, whoever he was at the time, but you're playing with different guys, and you're playing against lesser opponents. So it should equal out somewhere, and you cannot go like 10, 15 games without a point. I didn't say without a goal. Like, that's fine, without a point. Yep. Like, it's and again, it's killing him too, 100%.
Oh yeah, of course.
It is a guy that cares, you know what I mean? But we're talking, if you go back to all those little losses here and there, and again, they're 4-2 in the last 6. There's nothing to be alarmed of. But you're 25 games left, 24 games left. Like, at some point, you gotta, that's gonna be tight. 4-2s. You got to go like 6-7-1, and you know what I mean. Like, and then lose one, go another 6-7-1. Like, you got to string some stuff together. Defensively, yeah. Like the coach said, what's he gonna do? Look at the game plan. There's way to St. Louis on the plane, and again, it's all broken down already. You're gonna look, and it's gonna say, what? I don't have the numbers right now in front of me. You would, 6 scoring chances, great. It's like it's a dream, like, right? You know what I mean? Because that's what that's the way you want to play. Obviously, you know what I mean. I mean, I don't. It can't be that much. I'm talking about high
24
danger.
Scoring chances. High dangers, they had 10.
And what about the other team? That's why.
Nashville only had 6 high dangers.
I said 6. I was close, right? No, I said 4. What is? I don't remember what I said, but it was pretty damn close. So it's kind of like, at some point, what are we doing here? Like, okay. And then on the other side, okay, we created some stuff. We had some shares, some scoring chances. We didn't do this, we didn't do that, but we did this and did that. We controlled play, just by, again, I'm not a shots guy, but you can tell, but they control play. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it comes down to what we're talking about, what we're complaining about the last 30 minutes, which is the lack of production from lower end guys. It's not there.
Let me throw you some more interesting shooting numbers then on some of these guys that are struggling to produce. Ross Colton is shooting 14.5% this year. Casey Middlestat, 12.2%. Logan O'Connor, a little bit lower at 8.6%. But you're looking at these numbers and you're saying these guys they should not be bad shooters in theory, at least when they put the puck on net. They should not be bad shooters. But their quality of shots and their ability to hit the net has not been good enough. Yeah. It's not that they can't score. It's that right now they're not giving themselves the chance to score far too often.
Yeah, and again, the numbers don't lie there, right? You know what I mean? And the eye test doesn't lie. And I'm at a loss. Like, is it? I think it's not even about hard work. I think it's just having a little bit more passion, a little bit more like oomph, and a little bit more grease, and a little bit more, putting the working boots in a different style of thing, and not try to score a goal off the rush. Like, it's obviously not working. Scoring a goal off the rush. You're really not creating anything. You got bagels and 10. So then it's more like, let's go work below the goal line. Let's go spend some time down there. It's not beautiful. We're not going to make the ESPN, like whatever you want to call it, top 10, plays of the night. You won't, but I'm going to get off the schneid a little bit, and we're going to produce a little bit. We're going to help out, and we're going to do our part, offensively. And again, defensively, they're not getting killed. I mean, again, they're not giving up anything as a team, so no one's getting really killed, right? I mean, obviously, so it's easy to see, it's easy to figure out, but you got to change your pattern a little bit. You got to change as a line, or like kind of even Kibby and LOC and Parker, which I think they do. It's just a lack of finish, from those guys anyway. Like, I think it will always be there. They're never going to score 20 goals. No offense to anyone there. But
you can say the fourth line guys, they're at least in the ballpark of being on pace for what a fourth liner should produce. They're a little bit on the low side, but not like outrageously low like Colton is on that third line.
No, and I do like that they're getting, like, again, the Colton line, they had one shift in the first. Remember, we were talking, oh my God, that's their best shift of the month. You know what I mean? Like,
their third line was their best line in the first period. Like,
yeah, but then it's like, and then it dies. It's like, and then it's not there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. At least the fourth line, like Parker, like they'll go below the goal line. They'll stick their butts out, and then they'll create something out of nothing, or maybe they won't even create anything, but at least they'll kill the clock for a minute, and you're in the offensive zone, and it gives what I mean. There's a purpose to your shift. I just feel that some of those lines sometimes there's no purpose to their shift. You know what I mean? It's like, and then the next one there's no purpose to that shift either, and it's like, huh? And you're trying something that it's not there.
And here's the nail in the coffin for this production, because I just said, a guy like Logan O'Connor is actually producing okay for a fourth line player, which is the line he played on tonight. Wager a guess for me, LOC's time on ice per game this season.
Again, there's a lot of obviously shorthanded situations.
Yes, well, of course.
Yeah. I bet you he's at 14.
14.51.
Okay, close. Almost 15. I was going to say 13, but round it out to 15.
Almost 15. And there are factors there. You mentioned the PK. The Avs have been heavily injured earlier in the season, but you have a guy playing 15 minutes a night that has no points in his last 10 games and has 14 points in 57 games. It's a lot of ice time for a guy like that.
I know, and I love the guy. That's why, you know what I mean? But I just feel that no one is escaping our thought process here, of what we're trying to say. Again, you can play well, great, awesome, but at some point when your top guys always bail you out, at some point you have to bail them out. And I feel that too many times they're not there to bail them out. And that includes everybody.
To be honest with you, if you're playing that much, you're not there to bail it out. You're there to do your job.
Exactly.
Ross Colton, 15.43. He's pushing 16 minutes a night, and he's got 16 points in 40 games.
That's my point. That's my wrath tonight. It's not the way the Avs played. Great, they lost 2-1 to a bad team. Don't kid yourself. Nashville Predators is not the freaking Edmonton Oilers of the '80s. You know what I mean? Like, they're having a bad year. You know what I mean? And you lost 2-1. Yeah, Saros played great, awesome, great, whatever. But
He did.
he didn't play that. I mean, he played good, but he wasn't like, oh my god, he's out of his mind.
Look,
Like, you know what I mean? It's just,
I think it's worth noting Saros did play really well for me. I think there have been a lot of nights where the Avs make a okay goalie look really good. I thought Saros was just really good tonight. It happens, but this has happened too often to the Avs for that to be an excuse. So it doesn't.
I got no problem. You got a 7-game point streak. You're a third liner, like whatever. You got 7 points in 8 games, and then you got one of those nights where the top end guys don't really produce. Power play doesn't produce, and you don't really help out. You lose 2-1, and Saros plays great. I got no. I mean, okay, you know what I mean. I get it, but what we're talking about tonight is the root of the losses.
Yep.
They're all the same.
They are.
You did it the other day. 1-1-1, 0-0, 1-1. You know what I mean? It's like
post Christmas. They're almost all that like that. Yeah.
It's all like that, and it's a pattern. And for me, it's starting to be a red flag a little bit. Bednar, how'd you feel your team played tonight? Oh, I thought we played good. No crap. We agree with them. I mean, that's the question. That's the answer.
Well, I do want to continue this conversation. We do got to pay some bills, though, as this show can get you directly to an Avs game with Game Time. Make sure you jump in with Game Time today. You can get in with Game Time and use code DNVR to get $20 off your first purchase. That's tickets to just about anything. Of course, you can go to an Avs game, you can go to sporting events, but it's more than just that. You can also get to the theater, you can get to concerts, pretty much any ticketed event. Game Time has you covered. Over 15 million people use Game Time to get their tickets, and when you use the Game Time Picks feature, you get the best tickets for the best prices based on what you're searching for. It'll filter out all the junk and only show you the best deals. So make sure you're getting with Game Time. Make sure you're using that Game Time Picks feature. You can even see where you sit in a bunch of stadiums around the country with Game Time. So jump on with them. Again, DNVR code gets you $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? Is game time, baby. And once you're at a game, or maybe you're just watching the game from home, make sure you're choosing chill with Coors Light. Coors Light is the beer to chill no matter what the situation, whether you're frustrated by an Avs loss or you're maybe celebrating a Team Canada win. Either way, Coors Light has you covered. And if you are at home, you don't even have to get up off the couch. You can go to CoorsLight.com/DNVR to order for delivery today. You'll find it right on your front door thanks to Instacart. Again, that's CoorsLight.com/DNVR if you want to get it ordered. Whatever the occasion, doesn't even have to be sports. Maybe you're just hanging out for a birthday or you're grilling. It's supposed to be like 60 tomorrow. I don't understand Colorado weather, but that's kind of grilling weather. So you can jump in with the Coors Light there. And, of course, the mountains turn blue on the bottle or the can. They'll let you know it's ice cold and ready to drink. Again, head to CoorsLight.com/DNVR to get it ordered right to your front door today, wherever you are. And, of course, please drink Coors Light responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I do want to talk about some positives, too. One, your one goal tonight comes from your second line. And I know Middlestat doesn't get a point, but he helps create that play. You get Parsonen and Druin involved. And you get Sam Malinski scoring the goal, getting involved offensively. If you're looking for a guy who had played a couple of good games before the break, good to see Malinski keep up the quality play. Maybe he's helping you a little bit solve one of your problems, where it felt like the bottom end of your defense has been a struggle. Got a couple more weeks here before the deadline. If Malinski can put a handful of good games together, maybe you feel a little bit more comfortable about that one at least, E.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's a positive. And again, I know people like to get on Casey and stuff like that, but that play there, that's a playoff play on the wall. And you're going to say, oh, it's so dumb. No, it's not dumb. Like, those are the little details. Key number 3 this morning, right? Key number 3, details, playoff habits. Those are things that will give you something in the playoffs. Those are things that will help you create offense, getting out of your own end, not being pinned down in your own end. You got to take a hit to make a play. And that goal had everything there. You know what I mean? Again, Joe Druin finds a way to get, points. even when he's not with Nate or on the power play. And that's what Joe's done since he's been there. Since
7 points in his last 10, for the record. Jonathan Druin's doing his
yeah,
job.
that's what I'm saying. Like, and I know some power play points, of course, that helps you. I'm not sure what his power play ratio is, but um, you know, um, but yeah. And again, like it's hard to fault when you score a goal at 5-on-5. You know what I mean? And it's the only goal that you scored. It's hard for me to get on those guys' case. You know what I mean? Like the Caseys of the world. Would I like it a little bit more? Yeah, sure. You know what I mean? Uh, you know, I just. It's not even about being patient. For me, it's even deeper than that. For me, it's the lack of production of the bottom six, and you know what I mean, where I think there's been a little more production on, the secondary, the second line. You know what I mean, and that's where I just feel that. And again, if you look at Casey's numbers, they're tough. You're right. 3 goals in 50 games, whatever it is, 48 games. That's hard. If you look at it that way, it is hard. You know what I mean? Like when you make, a decent amount of money, you know what I mean? Uh, but again, I don't think he's been at his best. Do I think that,
He's not. I'm not saying Middlestad's been good enough. He has 3 points in his last 10 games. That's not enough for a second line player.
Mhm.
But also, that's as many points as your entire third line combined. Like,
that's my point. That my beef is more towards the bottom, and then you combine that with, yeah, very thin production from that line. You know what I mean? And do I think he can be better? Absolutely. Uh, you know, uh, but I don't think that's. I do believe that if they feel that this is not going anywhere, they'll make a move. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's what we're gonna
it,
talk here. You know what I mean?
I,
But what's better out there than Casey? You know what I mean? Like
right. And
I don't know.
the reality of it, and the answer that everybody hates, but is usually true and usually the case, sometimes you have to work through it a little bit. Ross Colton is not going to go over for the rest of the season. He's going to come out of it. Casey has shown flashes at times. He needs to find that consistency, but he's shown he's capable
Yeah.
of being great. Go look at the first 15, 20 games of the season. If he has another stretch like that, no one's talking about him. He can do it. He just has to get there. It's even when you look at some of those other guys. Miles Wood is a better player than what we've seen out of him this year. He is. Everybody knows it. But right now, it just feels like there's one too many guys that aren't playing up to their ability in the Avs depth.
Yeah, and for me, there's 2 ways to get production. If you're Casey, it's more like a question of feel, and these guys they can make plays in tight. He can make plays, coming at the blue line, and uh, you know. Uh, Asking everyone to play the same way, right? To play hard, to play dirty, but the skill kind of takes over with guys like that. Where I think on the other side, where the third, fourth line is, I think is again, it's such a different way to play. This is not the old take the '80s take and dump and chase and go kill people. That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. But there's a way to be effective by soft chipping it and going to get it and making plays and picking up pucks off rims. And Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup that last year. Most dumping into the league.
My thing is,
it's
I
not
don't
hard.
like. I thought they did that well tonight. Like they went in, they won puck bet. I thought they did a lot of things like that right tonight, but they didn't do the only thing that wins you hockey games, and that's score goals.
Yeah, and then that's my second part of. I agree with you, but you got to grease it up at some point, and you got to get to the inside, and you got to get to the front, and you got to go, and you might lose a couple chicklets sometimes or whatever it is because it's nasty in there, and it's sometimes not fun, and it's dangerous, and like at the end of the day, like you gotta. It's not just like, oh, Pop, I'll give it a nice shot, and then it's a one timer. Yay! You know what I mean? Like, it's buddy, get in there, score with your head, score with your butt, like get in there, like let's go. You know what I mean? And it's 1 and it's 2 and it's 3 secondary chances, third chances, 4 chances, momentum, go go go. It's not just like, oh, Tom picked it up and then, oh, the play didn't work. I back check. I go like, I mean, it's not fun. You got to get a little sustained pressure. You got to get some time in the offensive zone. You got to create something out of nothing where you're just molding it yourself by hard work, by puck possession. I'm not saying to be like, oh, dump and chase. That's not what I'm saying. Like that's not what I'm saying. But whatever you're trying to do and make a play off the rush, it's not working. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's working for Mac and he's leading the league in scoring. You know what I mean? Like, but for the other guys, like if you're going and you're playing 15, 16 minutes a night and you're going 10, 12, 15 games without a point, like you got to change it up a little bit. That's not coaching. That's pressuring.
Right.
That's putting pressure on yourself and go execute and do it.
I mean, the reality is, look, the Avs top players are really good. Most nights they can do it for you. Most nights they can. But on the nights they can't, it doesn't feel like the Avs are finding enough players stepping up. A lot of these players are finding their production on the same nights that the Avs top guys are going. Man, so what? You get your third line goal to make a game 4-1. That's late in the day. So it was over anyway. Who cares? You're in a 1-1 game in the third period. It was clear that your top guys just weren't quite finding it tonight. They still created a bunch of great chances.
Sure.
But they step up every night. And I get it. It's not fair. That's their job. They have to do it every night. But some nights it's got to be somebody else, right? Like
yeah, and that's where my statement comes like from. Again, it's not old school hockey and dumb and again, that I say it all the time. The skill level nowadays is so much better than back then. The level of speed is so much better than back then. The level you can't, and the smartness of players, but technology and video and the game, like the X's and O's are so much like more intense than they were. That is not an old take what I'm saying. But if you're watching the game tonight, okay, and us coaches or players on looking at their shifts on the bed on the plane on the way to St. Louis and a lobster tail and a shrimp cocktail, right? I mean, because that's what the NHL is, right? It's best league in the league, never hungry league, NHL. And as you should, you're the best of the best. You know what I mean? You're treated like gold,
absolutely.
so it's all good. I'm good, but you have to ask yourself, and you can't lie to yourself, like, was I a buzzsaw out there? Every time when I was out there, was there like the announcers going like, "Oh God, Rudo's been amazing tonight. Like he's all over the place." Like, the answer is no. You can't lie to yourself. The answer is no with none of those guys that we're talking about right now. But that's all you get out of that stuff. That's how you get out of it. Because you got to go out there and create and be a buzzsaw and challenge yourself to make a difference and not just play and kill time. For me, it looks like they're playing and killing time at times, and that's hence the lack of production.
I look no further than the last 2 minutes of this hockey game. I know they took the penalty and whatever, but they're out there doing a standard penalty kill when they're down a goal with a minute left in the game. They haven't pulled the goalie. They had possession and they just give it away. I mean, that looked like a team that just said, you know what, we lost.
I know. I didn't lie. I would have forced it a little more, but that's me. What do I know? He's got way more wins than I do as a coach. But I understand. It almost worked. I mean, it could have easily worked. Because they do. Again, that's the problem. You got the McKinnons of the world, the Natchez and the McCars, and they can make special plays, and all you need is 10 seconds. You know what I mean? I get that, but I just feel that about to sneeze. Sorry.
Well,
I don't want to sneeze.
I will say this briefly.
Pardon me.
Late in the third period, Logan O'Connor hits a post. It goes off of Saros and out. Like, we're very close to probably having a different conversation here. If that puck goes in the net, we're saying, hey, Logan O'Connor broke through. It felt like it took too long, yada, 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 but they got that big depth goal, and who knows what happens in the game. And the other side of it is, I didn't love the defense on the first goal. Fine, whatever. There's another team out there also trying to win the game. I don't know what the Avs are supposed to do about the second goal going in. Like, that's a shot that misses wide. They're looking for a tip, and O'Reilly misses the tip, and it hits the back end boards and pops out the other side right to March's. Like, that stuff happens on the ice sometimes, and that one didn't go the Avs' way. I have no problem with the mechanical way they played defense in this game, with the mechanical way that they played offense for the majority of the game, I would comfortably say that on most nights, the Avs, I don't know, honestly, most nights the Avs should win when they play like this. They have to finish better, obviously, to get there. But shots ended up, 32-17? I mean, the Avs were better. They were better at everything except for the goal scoring. And guess what? The goal scoring is the only thing that matters.
And I agree with AWOL there. How do we say it? Not AWOL. AWOL, sorry. I'm sorry, AWOL. I agree with that. And that's my point.
Exactly right.
That is exactly my point. You're just better at saying it than I am. And it's like, it's one thing to possess the puck and, you you didn't get scored against, you didn't give up any chances, but really nothing happened. You know what I mean? Like you didn't get greased up. Nothing happened. Like you didn't almost score. You didn't you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, wore them down. And that's where my take, and you're going to hear it the next 2 weeks now, because trade deadline is in exactly 14 days, whatever it is, 13 days, 14 now, days, 13 now. Yeah. Depending on, what time it is. But, you need, and again, that is not the old take and the dumb old school hockey take. Like, they need a little bit more sandpaper. I'm sorry. Like, they do. They got to be a little greasier. They got to be a little dirtier. And,
the exact things you are saying are how the Avs play an 11% shooting game, right? When you can't miss and everything's great, you shoot 20%. When all of your fancy plays aren't working and nothing's going in, you shoot 3%. And the way you turn that 3%, maybe not an 11%, but you turn it into an 8%, is the grease.
It is. And that's why you got to remember 2 playoffs ago, the Avs felt that they got pushed around. They weren't physical enough. And then they signed Ross and Miles right in the offseason. Correct? Yep. I mean, that's the reason why they did it, And look what we're talking about today. You know what I mean? You just need more. You need more grease. You need more grit from those guys. You know what I mean? Because it will result in production. It just does. It's got to go off your helmet at some point. It just does. It does. Like, I don't. You're
not wrong. Yeah.
I've always said that, and I'm sticking to it. And those guys, I like those too. I like the signings. I still do. Right now, they just need a little. Like they got to change their in my book, their thought process a little bit on how they're playing, and really go about it, and really challenge yourself to produce, because you have to produce. You have to produce on top of playing your game, which is gritty, dirty, nasty, annoying, forecheck. Guys are seeing you on the ice. They're like, oh, God, don't want to play against those 2 right now. That hasn't been really the case. It just hasn't. Like, you got to be honest. You know what I mean? It has. And then the production goes with it.
And what I will say in defense of the Avs, Bednar said he liked the way the team played tonight. And I believe him, because not a single player less than 10 minutes tonight. He rolled all 4 lines. He felt like he was getting good hockey out of all 4 lines, and he was, except for I don't know how many ways to say it. There's just nothing else to say about this game. The Avs didn't score enough goals. And if you go back and look at 9 of their last 10 losses, that's the conversation. Some of those are worse games than others. Some of those look just as good as this one did, and they didn't finish. And I don't know that there's no secret sauce, is what I'm trying to say. You can't, just go make this one move, or go put this one player in this one spot that fixes this. It's the things Eric is talking about. It's going to Pizza Hut. It's getting greasy. And especially when it's not going in, you need to be doubling down on those things, not trying to make the perfect play, like the trap that the Avs fall into a little bit too often.
And I love what Jamie's saying on the comment right there. It's not Jamie, but Wedgwood said it, but Jamie brought it up there. It's hockey. You got to find a way to make plays. Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no cut up oranges, and I keep saying that all the time. And hugs and yay, moral victories. You got to find a way to execute. You got to find a way to put it in. Like, I don't care if it's, again, your leg, your foot, your head. Like, I don't care. draw something, like piss, get somebody mad at you, and then you get a power play, and then the big guys score. Like, you got to get involved. Right now, if you're taking a shower and you're one of those bottom 9 guys, like, am I doing enough in those losses to help with the outcome of the game on the scoreboard? And if you're saying yes, you're lying to yourself. I'm sorry, like, you're lying to yourself. And that's where my beef is a little bit. You know what I mean? It's a privilege, it's an honor to play with guys like Kale and Mac, and it is. Trust me, it is. And that's why, as goalies, like, sometimes, like, you gotta help them out. Like, you gotta come out and steal one or steal 2, because these guys bail you out all the time. That's what a team is. It's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. It's not golf. It's not tennis. You know what I mean? Like, unless it's doubles or whatever, the Ryder Cup or whatever. But usually you're on your own, right? You know, and whatever your outcome of your production is, it's the outcome of what it is. Right here in a team sport, you depend on the production of the guy next to you. When I say production, it's not just goals and assists and wins and losses as a goalie. Like, it's your product. Like, what are you bringing to the game? What are you bringing to the game that's special? Because everybody works hard. You don't get a cookie for that because you worked hard. You wouldn't be in the NHL if you didn't work hard. Honestly. Like, honestly. Everybody's got some sort of talent. Like, but what do you do to differentiate yourself for the outcome of the game? You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm struggling a little bit, because I do believe some guys have a lot more to give in that aspect, which will lead to more production.
And the Avs know that. That's why they're here. Like, let's be honest, the Avs don't really have other options. When you look at the call-ups they've used this year, there's not a whole... Steinberg, sure, he was physical and all that, had no points in 8 games. A bunch of players that have played a few games that have no points. Giovanni Smith, Chase Bradley, a couple others. TJ Tynan, 1 point in 8 games. Chris Wagner, 1 point in 24 games. The Avs don't have... The only call-up you could really make an argument for is Ivan, who had 8 points in 40 games when he was here.
Yeah, and my take on that, on all the games the guys you just talked about, like, I understand sometimes you're just not ready to be an NHLer. I get it. Or Wags, you know what I mean? Like, I feel that a couple guys, I'm going to name names here, that I felt like brought something to the table. If you're not bringing a goal and assists, or, but you're bringing something. You know what I mean? I feel at times Wags brought you something because he's got experience. You know what I mean? But yeah, 1 point in 24 games, none. But I felt that sometimes it's a big hit, it's a fight, it's whatever. You know what I mean? Something. You know what I mean? And again, he was brought in to be the captain of the Eagles. He was never brought in to be on the Avalanche roster. We all know that. Injuries made it that he did. And then the other guy for me, and he was starting to make a little nest for himself, because he was starting to get the trust of Bednar with some PK, and with Steinberg. Like, I'm sorry, like, and then he got that suspension, and I'm just saying, like, no,
for he's me, hurt now too, for the record, but
no, I understand. I'm talking about the guys that have been there, all the names that you said. I understand his production wasn't there, but he brought some physicality to the game. He brought something else. He brought the other team wanted to rip his head off, or I don't know. You gotta get noticed out there. You gotta say the name. There's some guys you don't even say their names.
Yep.
And for me, it's like, what? How many times are you going to get called up in the NHL? Maybe never. Maybe never. That was your chance. And then you go back and you say, oh, I played 5 minutes. I couldn't do it. Oh, by the way, that's 5 more minutes than Jean-Luc Foudy has this year. Yeah. Right? I'm just saying, you were the one that was called up. Like, and again, we're on a different topic, but it kind of all blends in with the bottom 9, so to speak, what's happened all year.
Unfortunately, the Avs' problem is they need production down there, and none of the call-ups have really provided that. So the guys they have, they know are capable of more production. They just have to get there. And guess what? They play again tomorrow night, and your top guys are going to be empty. The tank is going to be empty for those guys. So you get another chance, if you're part of the Avs' depth, to step up tomorrow.
And again, maybe I should put my keys again tomorrow morning. Like, less work for Tiff. Come on, Tiff, give me the woo. Let's work for you. We'll go with the same keys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there you go. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, a little help, please. Right? That was key number 2, I think, whatever it was. And it's like, come on. Like, you just said it. I don't care all not human those guys are. If Nate McKinnon tomorrow's flying, I'm going to start eating kale too, and chickpeas, and I mean maybe that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm going for it, because it's not normal. Like the up, emotional up, and the pressure of a country. I mean that's a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden and then a lot of minutes and producing at the tournament and. These guys are, ambassadors for the league at the same time, and everybody did an unbelievable job as players. You got to applaud the players last 10 days. They were awesome. They were awesome. It was a home run everywhere, but there was a lot from the players. It was a lot to ask from them, and nobody complained. They all did it. And then on top of it, Mac comes back. What was Mac's ice time tonight? Well, not that much because they played 4 lines, but whatever.
23, I think. Not too
crazy. And then I'm going to use our terms. Okay, tomorrow, Sega Baba. Avs always good on Sega Babas. I don't think it's ever stopped the Makars. But this is a 3 and 4. And this is a 3 and 4 where all of a sudden, they probably didn't go to bed till 3, 4, 5 in the morning, Thursday night. Yeah. I'm just saying, what I mean? It's a tough one tomorrow for those guys.
Only 21 minutes for the record for Mac, so not crazy, but still.
No, but still, you get on the plane now. You go to St. Louis, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, you know what I mean? And that's why I say a little help, please.
Yep.
Because tomorrow, you put some pressure on yourself. I don't care. Play like a game 7, you know what I mean, for some guys. It's game 7 for some guys. It is. Yep. Because do you want to be here or do you want them to make a decision and look somewhere else? For me, it's some guys it's their game 7s here. Like the next few games is their game 7s.
10 days, basically, yeah.
And you gotta, and pressure is earned. You gotta love that stuff.
Of course.
You gotta freaking love it.
The other side of it is chat talking about Val Nichushkin a little bit. Supposedly he's close to coming back. At this point with the Avs, he'll be back when he's back. No. I give up on trying to track their injuries.
Well, they said Jersey. I mean, I don't know. Again, he almost played a month ago.
They've said a lot of things. He was day to day, then he was week to week, and then he was supposed to be back, and now he's not back. And so I don't know, dude. I can't take any of it seriously when it comes to that. There you go. All we know is neither Nichushkin or Manson are on the trip. That's what we know for sure.
They said Jersey, for Nichushkin.
They say a lot of things. E.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. He was supposed to play a month ago. Remember?
Yeah.
He was supposed to play. He's probably playing the next night. Then he was in shorts. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yep.
And again, somebody was talking about something else from the start of the year. That's not it. He's injured. So don't read into that. He's injured. It's not the other. He's injured. Yeah. Just want to make sure we're good.
And look, don't get me wrong. Val Nichushkin is important. Val Nichushkin will add to the consistency of this team. It will make that second line better. Val Nichushkin does a lot of things. One player cannot be the difference between your bottom 6 being non-existent and good. Your bottom 6 got to do it with or without Nichushkin. Your second line has got to be better than they are. Yes, Nichushkin makes them better, but the level that they're at without Nichushkin is not good enough. It should still be better than where it is.
I agree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, it's got to be better with Val or without Val, obviously. And again, I think Val will make a difference, obviously. But
the thing is, if the Avs show up tomorrow and beat the Blues 5-1, and you get 2 goals out of your third line, and Casey Middlestat scores a goal, and Cale Makar picks up 2 assists, no one's going to be surprised. The problem is not the ceiling with this team. This ceiling of this team is a cup contender. The problem is they cannot play to their average. And their average, before trade deadline, their average probably not cup winning. We'll see what happens at the deadline. But their average is pretty darn good. They just can't be there. They're either unbelievably good or they're bad. They struggle to find that middle ground right now. And that's their biggest problem. It's about raising their floor more than it is building their ceiling right now.
I agree. And that's where the word, I think, has been inconsistency. You know what I mean? And I think that's the word. You know what I mean? And God, it's a tough word because you usually get that with youth. You know what I mean? Like, Richie at the start to see inconsistent. It's normally young, you know what I mean? Like he plays inconsistent, because you haven't learned how to be a pro. You haven't learned how to play shift to shift, like with a high intensity. Every shift, everything matters. Every practice matters.
Just real quick, For our people watching on television, we are going into overtime. Head over to the DNVR.com. If you're watching elsewhere, we're sticking with you. So just had to get that in there. We're good. Oh, were you done?
Oh yeah, I mean that's what, no, I was done. I knew you had to do that, but I was just saying, yeah, I mean, inconsistencies is something like you cannot have as a team. It's just not a good trait to have, especially if you want to have a long postseason. You got to get that word out. You got to erase that. Use the eraser.
I do feel like we may have been a little bit harsh on this podcast, and some of that is living in the moment. The Avs haven't played a real game in 2 weeks, so this is what we have to go on in the immediate. Right. But you said it earlier in the show. Really, in your last 6, you're 4-2.
That's right.
If you look a little bit bigger, had this game been played immediately after their last 2 wins, you'd go, well, this was unfortunate, but the Avs are still in a little bit of a good stretch of hockey.
I know. I mean, that's the big picture. Small picture is the lack of scoring tonight, right? And that's what we did the show on, right? You know what I mean? So.
Yep. Honestly, to extrapolate that a little bit, if you want to go even further, if you back it up to their last 10, so from game 48 to 58, that turns it into a stretch where they're 6-4. So not great, but not terrible in their last 10. Look, 6-4 is probably good enough to make the playoff. If they play 6-4 hockey the rest of the season, they'll make the playoffs. They probably won't catch Minnesota. They definitely won't catch Dallas with that style of hockey, though. So it is not this end of the world doom-bringing thing. It is frustrating that the Avs keep losing in the same ways. It is frustrating that the Avs continue to bash their head against the same problems, but they're fine. The question is, can they do better? Can they get themselves to chase down Minnesota? Can they find that consistency? And I like to think they can, but let's be honest, we can't really answer that question until after the deadline.
Yeah, and I think coaches will tell you they want to go 7-3, 8-2. That's the pace you want to go at. You know what I mean? And I think that's coaches meaning of championship teams. You know what I mean? Like, again, if you're the San Jose Sharks, like that, again, that's not sustainable. It's not normal. You know what I mean? Like, you might have one like that, and then the other ones will be 2-8, 2-8. But I think for the Avalanche, you want to make sure that you build off something like that tonight. I think that's what he was saying. Bendar, like, yeah, you like the way his team played, and again, he's not going to say stuff in there that needs to be said privately, to some guys individually, but I'm sure they had meetings this week, and that's why you use that week to get organized, physically, mentally, meeting wise with your guys, knowing where everybody is, knowing what they need, and challenge some guys, to be better and to get rid of that inconsistency. Because once you do that individually, obviously as a team, that word's going to go away as well, right? It goes hand in hand. That's why it's not tennis or golf, because it's a team game. So, but I do believe that they can get to it. I do believe that you start like looking at the small picture, the big picture, and then challenge yourself for what you're trying to achieve. And expectations are very big here. They're big for a reason, because they've done it and they want to do it again. And I think you have to tell yourself too, like, some guys, maybe they're not able to be part of those expectations.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I've seen it before where some guys can't. They can't every day, like to be driving and at practice and going, and because you're trying to win. It's hard to win. If it wasn't hard, then everybody would win. As Buffalo.
True.
You know what I mean? They haven't had the Buffalo, they haven't had the playoffs in a gazillion years, If it was easy to do, everybody would. It's not easy to do. It is not. That's reality.
It's not. It absolutely is not. We are winding down the show here. We are taking over Ball Arena on February 28th against Minnesota. Come to the suite. There's a couple of tickets left with that. You can at very least get bus tickets, so you can go to and from the bar on the bus with us. You get free beers with that. It's always a great time. Highly recommend you sign up, especially because last game the Avs lost 3-1 to Minnesota. The game before that they won 6-1. So the coin is flipped. It should be the dominant, score all the goals Avs against Minnesota this time. That's how it works, right? Either way, make sure you're coming out and joining us for the takeovers. They're always a blast. The suite's going to be awesome. Michel Goulet will be in the suite if you want to talk to a guy who knows how to score a few goals. There's a guy for you right there. He'll give you some tips. That's all I got for this one. You good?
I'm good. Like I said, this is not negative. We're just talking about the negative thing, which is the lack of production. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On those losses. Other than that, the game was more than fine. You know what I mean? Like I thought it had a good pace to it at the start. And, again, we were just asking for production, asking for help if the big guys weren't going to produce, and we didn't get it.
Yep. I think it's important to... Is this a reoccurring problem for the Avs? Yes. Is it something that they need to get better at and fix these low-end games? Yes. Are the Avs in panic mode? Is this a huge problem? No. The Avs are going to be fine. They need to fix some things if they want to take themselves seriously as cup contenders, but this is not a team that is – it's not Nashville. Nashville won tonight, but which team would you rather be right now in the league? You'd rather be the Avalanche. Leave it to you at that. You saw the St. Patty's merch. Go get that stuff from the ALLCITY Network store. We appreciate y'all. We're out of here for today. Back tomorrow for the back-to-back. Same time, same place. This has been the DNVR Avalanche postgame show presented by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.